So we're certainly talking about states and cities over here, and that is why they call them civilizations, right? But we don't use that word. Um, but also we're going to be talking about organic solidarity, because as some people will do some work. Do you remember this concept of Emil Durkheim? As some people is going to be doing some work, other people will have to do other work, and everyone will be depending on everybody, because the things that you do, you're going to be providing for other people, and those other people are going to be providing for you the specialized labor that they bring into the table, that they bring into society. So remember that is the idea of organic solidarity, because as specialized labor develops, everyone requires of everybody, because we are only going to be specializing in doing one thing. For example, I am specialized in being a teacher, but my brother is a doctor, and he is a bone doctor and an emergency doctor. So if I have an accident, then I require of my brother to really help me to heal. But you require me to teach you about history and about geography, and my parents are computer engineers, so companies require of my parents in order to help them fix their computers and to manage all their systems. So everyone requires of everybody in this kind of societies, and that is the idea of organic solidarity. So yes, that is the main theory that I would back to explain why did the state developed in Cuicuilco, and that is because it had great conditions to develop production, and when we have enough production, we may have a surplus, and surplus is going to bring a big growth in population, and a big growth in population is going to require a higher level of organization, and also we are going to start having specialized labor, and we're going to start having gratings and all the conditions that we studied in the first trimester for cities and states. So we don't have actually any examples of gratings coming from Cuicuilco, except of perhaps this one, and we don't know if that is actually saying something, but they are actually signals, and that is really, really clear. And this is one kind of stela, and just think about this stela is more than 4 meters long. You can see in this image how it goes deep into the ground, and it is deep into the ground now, but of course in those times it was above the ground level, and nobody knows what it was used for, but there are some hypotheses in which perhaps they would use them to see some phenomena coming from the sun and from other stars. For example, they would be able to say, well, in summer the sun sets over here, but in winter the sun sets over here. So perhaps that is one of the theories, that they would use them to measure the movement of stars and of planets. But again, that is just a theory, that is just a hypothesis. Nobody actually knows, and nobody knows what these signs mean. Nobody knows what these circles inside other circles actually mean. But those are certainly signs, so we may see some evidence of some kind of writing over here. And we're going to be seeing, as I was telling you, this is a city. We're going to be seeing a lot of structures in Cuicuilco, and if you can see, they have different shapes, and it is they are supposed to have different functions. For example, this one over here is supposed to be a religious structure, because they found 2 rooms in the top part of this structure, and apparently those rooms were places used for religious purposes, for gods and energies and all the things that these people believed in. We cannot even be sure about what they believed in. We only have the evidence of some things, and we're going to be seeing them more or less by the end of this presentation. And this one was perhaps government related to the management of the city, and this one was perhaps households. It was devoted for people to live in it, but it has a very special characteristic, because all the other households would be in the ground level, over the ground level, and this one is higher than the ground level. This is why we have this like platform over here. This is stone platform, because the households that would be on top of this platform would be higher than the rest of the households. So, according to archaeologists, and again, these are just hypotheses, this would be meaning that the people that lived over here had a greater social status than everyone else, and that is why they are living above the level of which everyone else was living on. And also, the main characteristics of building of Cuicuilco, in all of their structures, in the main structure, but also in all of these smaller pyramids, that they are made out of soil. The center is made out of soil, and then they have this crust made out of stone. So you only have stone in the outer part of the pyramids. The inner part of the pyramids is clay and just soil, and they are all made more or less in the same way, but they are for the first time introducing the use of stone in construction, and that is going to be continuing to happen throughout Mesoamerica. And this is the structure that I was telling you to pay attention to really be able to identify where it is found. I am going to go back so you can see it easily. This green roof over here, that is the kiva, and this is what we have precisely over here. Yes. So if you see, it is just a circle made out of flat stones, huge flat stones, and nobody knows what it was used for, but we can tell that it has some red paintings over here, and these red paintings are more than 3,000 years old. They were obviously made out of some iron oxidizing, and also perhaps some mercury, because the oxidized products of those minerals are going to be giving us these bright red colors that can last a lot of time, that can last centuries and millennials. Well, we are the millennials. I am the millennial. You're Gen Z, Seth. Well, whatever. So these red paintings are going to be perhaps ritual, but nobody knows what this structure was used for. Again, I may propose that it is also having the shape of the volcano, but nobody knows. It was just found right next to the main structure, but nobody knows the purpose. Everyone believes that it has a religious purpose, but nobody knows. And it was named the Kiva because of some structures, some religious. Actually, in this case, we know that they are religious structures that Native Americans would build in the region called Four Corners in Oasis America, and we're going to be seeing Oasis America when we finish with Middle America. But again, we need to go more or less fast so we can see the Peruvians, and so we can say some African societies and some Asian societies, and all the societies that are not related to Europe. So that is why they were named. This structure was named as the Kiva because the structures that all those peoples use in North America are called Kivas, but they actually aren't so similar to this one, because in a Kiva you go down. There are structures that go down into the earth, and in here this is in the ground level, so you do not have stairs in order to go down. So it is actually not a kiva, but it only received that name by the archaeologists, and we do not know what it was used for. Remember that in all sciences, also in social sciences, of course, we work with hypotheses, and sometimes the problem with social sciences is mainly for these really old societies is that we do not have enough evidence to be able to build really uh, thick theories and thick hypotheses on what was happening over here. So we have only shallow hypotheses. We are not really able to tell what this space was used for. So over here we have some examples on pottery, and these examples of pottery are important. Why? Because they are talking about specialized labor. I know how to do this kind of pottery, but I bet that you don't, that you are not able to use clay in order to make pottery and to put it into a fire and really be able to cook this clay. So this is a specialized labor. Not everyone knows how to do it, and someone that knows how to do it is a specialized worker. And they are important because if you can see, perhaps it is not so clear, the surface is polished, and it is polished because when you polish the surface of the clay, Then you may have some waterproof clay, but some waterproof pottery, but it is not quite waterproof. It only gives you some minutes, perhaps some hours, in which you may have water in there, but it is eventually going to come out. Some days, perhaps some days, and it depends on how well the work is done and how well polished the surface is. But this is really specialized labor, so that is why it was important to show you this, because it is talking about, again, this organic solidarity in states and cities, because of course you had people specialized in pottery in order to be able to produce these clay tools for cooking and for the kitchen. And over here we have very cute dolls, and most of them are going to be representing women. If you see over here, they have these dresses, and of course, by the use of dresses, we may know that they are women. And this is going to be very characteristic on the figures of this time, and it is called coffee eyes, because the eyes are just going to have the shape of coffee beans. We cannot see it really good in these examples. Over here they just have like small holes, so this doesn't really count. Perhaps this one in the back does have coffee eyes, because as I was telling you, they do look like coffee beans. If you look over here, well, I am going to draw it so you are really able to know what are these very characteristic coffee eyes from this period. And if you see, it is more or less something like this, and that is everything they would do for the eyes. So that is why it is called coffee eyes, because they look like coffee beans. But that is all about it. If you can see, well, they are women. They aren't doing much. Perhaps one of them really special would be, and it's this one, because it has a very special dressing, right? You can really see how he was different from everyone else, from what he is dressing or she is dressing, we don't know. And also I wanted to include these ones over here, because as you can see, these ones still have the big cut, this Olmec influence with the big cut in the head. You remember we saw this yesterday with the Olmec societies. Also this one over here has the big cut over here, so that is going to be talking certainly about some Olmec influence. But remember that the fact that you have influence doesn't mean that things mean the same thing, both for the Olmecs and for Cuicuilco. So these are the three main pieces that I chose in order to explain why Cuicuilco is so special. The first one is this one, because if you can see over here in his little hand, he has a ball. And throughout Middle America, the ball game is going to be really special. All societies are going to be having one kind or other kind of ball game, but most of them are going to be having ball games. And if you can see over here, he actually is dressed for the game, because remember that these balls were made from a tree, but they resulted in very heavy balls, so you required protection in order to play these games, because you would hit it with your hips and with your legs. So he's wearing protection. Perhaps this is also one kind of like helmet. So it is talking about very interesting things. It is talking about very interesting things, because it is showing an example of a ball player, and we're going to have ball players and ball games throughout all Middle America. And the next one is this one, and this one is really, perhaps it is the most important one that we may find in Cuicuilco, because if you can see over here, this guy, first of all, he's an old guy. If you see his face, this is the face of an old man, and he is also like he has like a hunch, because he's really old, so he's tired, so he's like facing to the ground, because he's already too tired because of his age. And in this part over here, he's going to be having this like special pot that is going to be used for fire, and this representation is going to be repeated forever. This is the first example that we have in Middle America, and from here it is going to be repeated in every single Middle American society, all of them.